Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people are a blessing. Some people are a lesson. Some people are a season God uses to grow you. Some relationships teach you love. Some teach you boundaries. Some teach you forgiveness. Some teach you how much strength you never knew you had. And sometimes God removes people from your life, not because He's punishing you, but because He's protecting you. Stop holding on to doors God is trying to close. Stop chasing people He already gave you peace about releasing. You can love someone, forgive someone, and still understand they weren't meant to walk into your next chapter. Growth sometimes looks like letting go. I didn't know I was being emotionally abused, not while I was living it. I knew something felt wrong. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I felt smaller than I used to. But if you had asked me back then if I was being abused, I would have said no. Because emotional abuse doesn't always look the way people think it should. Sometimes it's so subtle, so gradual, that you can't quite put your finger on it. You just know something doesn't feel right. You try to explain it. But how do you explain always feeling like you're the problem? How do you explain constantly second-guessing yourself? How do you explain having your words twisted until you're defending something you never even said? How do you explain slowly losing trust in your own thoughts? You can't point to one big thing. It's 1,000 small things that slowly make you question your own reality. So you start thinking, maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's me. It wasn't until after I left that I could finally see what had been happening all along. And suddenly, all those things I could never quite explain started making sense. God removes people from your life because they aren't meant to go where He's taking you. Sometimes we keep praying for God to fix relationships He's trying to free us from. We keep holding on to doors He already closed because we're afraid of what's on the other side. But not everyone is assigned to your next season. Some people were there to teach you. Some were there to grow you. Some were there to show you what you needed to heal from. And letting go doesn't always mean there's hate. Sometimes it means there's wisdom. You can forgive them. You can pray for them. You can love them from a distance. Trust that when God removes something, He already knows what He's making room for. The thing about being hurt deeply is that it changes what you're willing to tolerate. Not overnight, and not because you become bitter, but because you finally understand the cost. The cost of ignoring your intuition. The cost of explaining away things that don't feel right. The cost of accepting treatment that slowly chips away at who you are. I used to think that maybe it was me. Maybe I was expecting too much. Now I see it differently. My standards aren't walls, they're lessons. Built from every time I ignored a red flag. Every time I abandoned myself. Every time I accepted something I knew, deep down, wasn't okay. The pain didn't make me harder, it made me clearer. And some things I will never tolerate again. I used to rehearse conversations in my head before I had them. I'd think about what I wanted to say. Then I'd think about how it would be received. Then I'd think about how I'd explain it differently. Or soften it. Or say it in a way that wouldn't start an argument. What I didn't realize at the time was that I wasn't preparing to communicate. I was preparing to defend myself because somehow, no matter what I brought up, the conversation always ended in the same place. I was too sensitive. I was overreacting. I was the problem. So eventually, I stopped trying. Not consciously. I didn't wake up one day and decide not to communicate. I just slowly learned that there was no point. I wasn't being heard. After enough conversations where you don't feel heard, you stop sharing what's on your mind. You stop bringing things up. You stop believing it will make a difference. I know now. That's when the relationship started to die. When I stopped believing there was any point in communicating how I felt. When I stopped believing that it could change. Because the moment you stop believing it can ever change, the relationship doesn't end, but the hope does.
And once hope is gone, you're no longer trying to save the relationship. You're simply learning how to live without what it could have been. I heard the Spirit saying, "You have carried greatness in secret. You have built quietly, walked humbly, and labored faithfully when no one was watching. You didn't seek applause. You simply obeyed. But now, the time of hiddenness is coming to an end. Whether you announce it or not, your very presence is shifting atmospheres. Your spirit carries the weight of heaven's authority. And even when you speak little, the environment bends to the anointing you carry."